welcome to another edition of Rise and Shine with Dr. Sunny Fridge. I believe God's gift to us is life, and our gift to God is how we live our lives. Rise and Shine with Dr. Sunny is an opportunity for me to interview guests who are living their dreams. They share how they turn their setbacks into comebacks, make their faith bigger than their fear, and live life with purpose, passion, and prosperity. My guest is an inspirational and motivational author, writer, blogger, and speaker. At the age of 36, Chris Mitchell was engaged to marry his dream girl. However, during a medical procedure, he survived an ischemic stroke to his spinal cord. It turned his world upside down. His story of drawing upon his faith and strength to overcome his physical disabilities is in his self-published book, It Doesn't Define Me: How I Rebuilt My Life After Surviving an Ischemic Stroke to My Spinal Cord. Welcome, Chris Mitchell.
Thank you, Dr. Sunny, for having me today.
So tell us, how were you before your stroke?
Well, before my stroke, my life was like most people who do not have any physical disabilities. I was able to run, walk, do anything and everything that anyone else could do. The only thing I was unable to do was to drive because of my visual impairment. But otherwise, I was as active as anyone else would be.
What is an ischemic stroke to the spinal cord?
I am not a doctor, but this is how it's been explained to me by my medical professionals. An ischemic stroke to the spinal cord is a stroke to layman people. The lay people like us will think of it as a stroke, but medically it is actually considered a spinal cord injury. However, when I was told that there was damage in my spinal cord, I tuned that out because I did not want to think of myself as possibly being paralyzed for the rest of my life. So I focused in on the stroke part of the diagnosis, which I'm glad I did because that allowed me to not place any limits on myself and push myself to the furthest possible recovery.
How did you learn you survived a stroke?
Well, I went into the hospital to undergo an ascending to descending aortic bypass operation. When I woke up from the surgery in the CVICU, they wanted me to stand and take a step or two. That's usually protocol to make sure you do not have pneumonia. So I slid my legs off the side of the gurney, placed my feet on the floor, and I started to stand. But instead of standing, I fell hard to my knees on the floor in the CVICU. We all thought it was a fluke, and we tried it again 15, 20 minutes later. Second time, I felt even harder than I did the first time. That's when the medical professionals knew something was wrong, and within a few days after an MRI, a neurologist explained to me I had survived an ischemic stroke to my spinal cord.
So what motivated you to fight this?
Well, at the time that I had experienced my stroke, I was engaged to my dream girl, and we were going to get married in a little less than a year. And I wanted to get my life back on track for her and for us to have that happily ever after every engaged couple is envisioning during the time of their engagement as they work towards their wedding date.
But before you were able to be married, it took a lot of faith. And I think we should probably mention that you had some other medical conditions.
I was born with some birth defects caused by the rubella syndrome. Some of those included a constricted aorta and cataracts that left me legally blind, 2,200 in my left eye, 2,300 in my right, unable to read out of my right eye, and have very little, if any, depth of 3D vision, perception.
Thank you for sharing that. So what's your journey been like since then in terms of what were the stages for your recovery? Talk about some of them.
Let's start with my disabilities. With my disabilities from a child, I came into the world behind the 8 ball. And I believe that those obstacles, which seemed big at the time, were actually preparing me for something God had for me later in my life, which is the ischemic stroke to my spinal cord. And when I had a battle to do things that my peers did, which was harder for me to do, like riding a bicycle, running, walking, climbing, or just being able to keep up with my peers, so even the kids younger than me, I think that gave me the determination and the strength that I needed to be able to draw from those past experiences so I could overcome the ischemic stroke to the spinal cord that God knew I was going to have later on in my life.
I remember we are members of the same Toastmasters Club, and I remember you giving a speech that talked about some of the challenges that you faced even as a teenager in school because of some of the disabilities.
One of the disabilities, now I don't know if it's from the birth defect or not, but one of the issues I had to battle is ADHD. And that got me into a lot of trouble, got me kicked out of a couple of schools, including my high school. But by my hard work and determination, because God gave me the strength to have those tools within me and from previous experiences in my life, I was able to earn. I don't like to say I was given, because I believe I had to earn it. I was earned the privilege to return to my home high school and graduate with my graduating class in 1980 something. That's all I'm going to say about the year.
Now, you've detailed a lot of your challenges and how you overcame it, and your ability to have faith. Tell us about your book.
My book is entitled "It Doesn't Define Me: How I Rebuilt My Life After Surviving an Ischemic Stroke to My Spinal Cord." Now, there's two verses from the Bible that have always been important to me, even before my stroke. One of them is, and I cannot quote which verse it's from in which book, but it came to pass, which basically means everything that happens in our life is not here to stay permanently. It will pass, or you will, to be honest about it. So I knew the stroke and what it had done to my body, which it robbed me of the ability to run, walk, or even stand, dress myself, or even turn myself from my own bed, or even feed myself. It was temporary, and I could get past that. The thing that gave me the strength to do that was my other favorite Bible verse, Philippians 4:13. And depending on which version of the Bible you read it from, it may be slightly different than what I'm going to say. But I can do all things through him who gives me strength. And I believe that no matter what is put into our life that God allows into our lives, he also gives us the ability and the strength and the tools and the resources to overcome or accept any challenge that he puts into your life. It's like what you say in your intro, which I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. It kind of relates to a line I saw in ER, which kind of connects to your intro. Your talents are God's gift to you. What you do with those talents is your gift to God. And I believe that he does equip us for everything that happens in our lives. And I do talk about that to some extent in my book, It Doesn't Define Me.
Wonderful. What was your inspiration for writing your book?
Well, I survived the stroke in 2002. And in 2011, I was selling on eBay. And I was not feeling fulfilled at that point because I was just selling sports memorabilia. And I wanted to make more of a difference in the world. And my 10-year anniversary was coming up of the stroke. I thought this would be a great time. My teachers in school always said I had a gift for writing, to write down what I went through and kind of process it and look back of where I was and how far I came in the last 10 years. That's what inspired me to write the book. And as I started writing it, I realized my story of It Doesn't Define Me is not just for people who survived a stroke or spinal cord injury. It can be an inspirational story for anyone who unexpectedly faces adversity in their life and need to know that others have went through it and they can overcome it just like I have. I'm just an average guy. I'm not a superhero.
Well, maybe you are in some form or fashion. I admire that you just keep coming back, and I love that you have a blog. What do you write about in your blog?
On my blog, on my website, I blog about ways that I have from my own personal life experiences, where Dr. Sunny got an actual degree from a accredited college. I got a degree from the School of Hard Knocks, or Hard Knock University. So I share a lot of the things that I've learned through life, some of the walls that I hit my head up against, and how those lessons that helped me overcome any challenge, obstacle, adversity, limitation, or setback in my life, and how people can use my lessons in life to guide them on their path. I also review books that are inspirational stories of other people who've overcame adversities, as well as write about inspirational movies or resources that are out there that can help people overcome their own it. Because I believe everybody has an it. Some people can it's are more visible, while other people it's are invisible. But we all have an it, and we all need to overcome them, because we can do that because God has equipped us for that.
Awesome. I love it. I love that it. We all have some type of it. So you've really given us some advice, but is there any specific advice that you want to share with our viewers and listeners?
Yes, the advice I would give to anyone, whether they be a viewer or listener or anyone I can stop on the street and make them listen to me for 30 seconds, would basically be, you have an it. Everyone has an it. Don't let that it define who you are, because you can define yourself.
Mm-hmm.
No one, which I put in my tagline on my emails, no one can do it for you. No one can do it to you. Only you can define who you are by overcoming your it. And don't let anyone tell you what you cannot do. And don't let anyone tell you that you're not good enough to do anything. With God in your corner, you can do anything you want in your life, and go for it.
Amen. Amen to that. Talk about some of the bumps in your recovery and how did you take them on?
There were two major bumps in my recovery. The first one, I had returned home from the hospital. I had the stroke, and then I was in a rehab hospital for 3 weeks. Then I was able to go home. Now, during my first couple of weeks at home, I started having a burning pain in the back of my leg. And I thought, ooh, the best way to help this is some nice hot showers. Well, the pain did not go away. And I went to the emergency room and discovered I had life-threatening blood clots in my leg. Note, do not do hot water on your blood clots. That can embolize them and you have a really big problem. I was very fortunate that it did not turn out bad. So I wound up back in the hospital on an IV drip to get my blood thinned, facing the fact and being told by doctors and nurses, if you move your legs too much, they can embolize and you could die. And those nights in that hospital were the longest nights of my life, but yet I spent those nights praying to God that I would survive, because I did not want Kim to be without her husband. Because I've seen women who, and this is not an insult to anyone, but I've seen women who had lost their fiance before they got married, and many of them are the shell of who they used to be. They never get over that. I did not want to put Kim through that. So I prayed about that, and I became really close to God, and I'm not that I want to kill myself tomorrow, but I'm not afraid of dying anymore. That helped in that area. The other bump was about 6 months later, when my progress in rehabilitation therapy started to slow down. And the therapists that were working with me said, there's really not that notable or noticeable improvement on your chart. And your insurance company is not going to cover this anymore. And I looked at him and I basically thought, the insurance company may be giving up on me, but I'm not giving up on me. I found ways around the house to start doing my own physical therapy. And much to Kim's unhappiness, I was walking around the house grabbing onto things when no one was at home, where I could have fallen and gotten hurt. But I built up strength in the house. I started walking up and down the side of the car, holding onto the roof of our Ford Escort, so I could be at the back of the car while Kim put my wheelchair in the back end and move up to the front. And from that, I gained strength and continued pushing myself. I decided I no longer wanted to be in a wheelchair in Target. So when we got out of the car one day, I grabbed under a grocery cart, pushed it in, and got onto one of the scooters. From doing that with the grocery cart, I became comfortable with teaching myself how to use first a walker, and now today I get around using a rollator. But for longer distances, I do have to use my electric scooter.
Awesome. I love your resilience and your creativity to take control of your own destiny, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, always think outside the box.
Okay. We were looking at a few of your pictures. What are some of the pictures that you're sharing with us right now?
One of the pictures that I'm sharing with you is a photo of me standing next to a computer with a big eBay logo near it. That is the last picture of me. This is the last picture of me standing before my stroke. There's another picture we're looking at is me sitting in a wheelchair in a classroom with an eBay shirt on. This is when after my stroke, I got myself a job teaching how to buy and sell on eBay to students at a local college. Ironically, the same college that expelled me from their campus 4 years earlier. There's another picture of me in the physical therapy room, working the exercise bars, which were parallel bars, relearning how to walk. I was also squeezing a blue ball between my legs to help strengthen my hip and thigh muscles because I would be using those when I did have to walk. There's, I believe, a green elastic item in my hands that I was pulling back and forth. That was to help with developing my upper body strength. So those are the photos from my rehabilitation at the outpatient hospital. There's also some fun pictures that I've done since I've had the stroke. There's a picture of me at the St. Louis Cardinals baseball park, Busch Stadium 3, where I got, along with others, a tour of the baseball field, where I got to sit behind home plate on my scooter. There's also a picture of me at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City, where my wife and I went and saw a Royals-Angels game, and we held up a sign, and we actually got ourselves on Los Angeles television and got a free baseball autograph by one of their broadcasters.
I take it that you are a sports fanatic to some degree?
Yes, I'm a very big baseball fan. In fact, one of the pictures that you may be looking at right now is a picture of me from the back playing the show, Major League Baseball, the show on my PlayStation. When I first had my stroke, I would do that every single day. And baseball was my way to escape from all the pain that my body was in from the stroke and all the sadness of what I had lost the ability to do. So baseball has been very therapeutic for me. And I'm a big fan of the St. Louis Cardinals, Kansas City Royals, Texas Rangers, and got to say this, go Astros in the 2019 World Series.
Awesome. I love what you're wearing. I just happened to notice it, your hat.
Yeah, I don't think the camera's picking up that well, but it says it doesn't define me, and underneath it is hashtag define yourself. It doesn't define me as the name of my book, and the hashtag define yourself is the hashtag I like to use on social media.
I couldn't help but notice that there are some stuffed animals sitting behind you. Do they hold any significance?
Ones that you probably see behind me are just stuff my wife and I collected. But honestly, I have a very large stuffed animal collection. It started out when I was a baby and I had my first surgery. Every time I went into the hospital, my parents always bought me a stuffed animal. So they're not in the photo behind me, but there are stuffed animals around here that have very special meanings for surgeries I had as a child and as an adult. Kim would get me a stuffed animal, or I would get myself a stuffed animal when I went into the hospital. It became a tradition from all the surgeries I've been through.
How can people find out more information about you and get your book?
Well, besides stalking me, which I do not recommend, you can visit my website. I am the letter I for inspirational, the letter M for motivational, Chris, CHRIS, Mitchell, MITCHELL.com. From that website, you can read my story of overcoming my stroke, read advice I have for other people who are trying to overcome their it's in their life. There's also links to my Facebook, my LinkedIn, my Twitter, and my YouTube social media pages. And you can always buy my book. It's available from my website, as well as Amazon in paperback format, as well as Kindle. And if you buy it from my website or find me at one of my book signings, I'll be happy to sign the paperback. I don't sign Kindle versions because people get really upset when I use a Sharpie on their Kindle.
Love your sense of humor. Before I let you go, what are you doing now in terms of speaking or blogging? Is it a weekly blog, and do you have an opportunity to get out these days to share your message?
That's a very great question. I appreciate you asking it. What I'm doing right now is I do blog. I try to blog once a week right now, but I'm ramping that up to being 3 to 4 times a week. I do get out and do some speaking, and most of the time I do that from like late February through the end of October, so that's ramping down for the year, but that will be coming back next year. And when I do have a date that I'll be speaking or doing a book signing, I do share those on my social media profile. I'm also working or have in the works to be launching a podcast, hopefully in the early part of 2020. So those are some of the things that I am doing right now, as well as enjoying time with my wife and my comfort cat, Junior.
Thank you so much, Chris Mitchell, for sharing your inspiring story, sharing your book, and we look forward to hearing more from you in 2020.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sunny, for having me as a guest, and I wish all your viewers and listeners that if they're facing any I wish you the very best of luck in overcoming it, because I know you can do it.
Amen. That's all the time we have on this edition of Rise and Shine. I continue to be blessed by your texts, your emails, your calls, and comments on social media to let me know that you are enjoying what we do. If you haven't gotten a chance, please consider donating to WYTV7.org so that we can help keep these inspiring broadcasts on the air. For more information, you can find me at sunnyfridge.com. And please like my Facebook page at facebook.com/I Rise and Shine, or listen anytime to Rise and Shine podcast on iHeart, Spotify, and Google, to name a few. And if you're not on social media, you can find all my shows and podcasts at WYTV7.org/Rise-Shine. Thanks so much for watching and listening. I'm Dr. Sunny. Remember, it's your time to rise and shine.